chocolate from bean to bar. A DIY adventure with kids. This right here is a perfect, glossy, snappy chocolate bar. It looks incredible, it sounds amazing when you break it, and it tastes even better. And this, well, this is also chocolate, or at least, it will be. These are cacao pods, the raw fruit that chocolate actually comes from. And if we're being honest, they look a little bit alien. We have almost no idea what we're doing, but for the next week, our family is going on a wild, messy, and probably very long adventure to see if we can transform these strange-looking things into actual edible chocolate bars. This is a massive kitchen experiment. It's going to take multiple days, a lot of patience, and it will definitely make a huge mess. Can a regular family with a couple of curious, and let's be real, easily distracted kids, actually make chocolate from scratch? Let the DIY adventure begin. The reveal. What even is this? Alright, day 1. The first step is just figuring out what in the world we're dealing with. These are cacao pods, and tucked inside are the cacao beans. They grow on a tree called Theobroma cacao, which is a pretty epic name, if you ask me. The pods themselves are surprisingly heavy and tough. To get inside, you have to give them a really good, solid whack. The kids, obviously, thought this was the best part. A little bit of controlled smashing in the kitchen is always a win. Once we cracked it open, the inside was not what we expected. It's filled with these beans, but they're all covered in this white, slimy, sweet-smelling pulp. The pulp is actually edible on its own and tastes sweet and tangy, kind of like a tropical fruit like lychee or mango. The kids were cautiously optimistic at this point. The pulp was a surprise hit, but the beans themselves, not so much. They're bitter, and tastes nothing like chocolate yet. Our mission is to take these weird, slimy beans and turn them into something delicious. First, we have to scoop them all out, pulp and all, and get ready for the most important and, apparently the smelliest part of the whole process. Fermentation, the stinky science experiment. This is where things get funky. To develop that classic chocolate flavor we all know and love, the beans have to ferment. It's a crucial chemical process that breaks down that slimy pulp and starts to change the flavor locked inside the bean. For our homemade setup, we're using a simple container with some holes for drainage, covered to keep things dark and humid. Some guides suggest banana leaves, but hey, we're making do with what we've got. This isn't a quick step. This takes about 5 to 7 days. And every day, we have to give the beans a good stir to make sure they ferment evenly. By day 2 of fermentation, the kids' reactions were priceless. The initial sweet, fruity smell started to turn, well, weird. It's a strong, alcoholic, vinegary smell that took over a corner of our kitchen. The kids would dare each other to run up, take a quick sniff, and then run away screaming. It became a daily ritual. We also had to play scientist and monitor the temperature. The fermentation process actually generates its own heat, and you want it to stay pretty warm. Around 113 to 122 degrees Fahrenheit, or about 45 to 50 degrees Celsius. We just used a kitchen thermometer to keep an eye on it. After about a week of this, the beans had transformed. The white pulp had basically melted away, and the beans themselves went from a pale purple to a rich brown color. They smelled intensely fermented, but underneath all that, you could just start to detect a hint of something familiar. Something that might, just might, one day become chocolate. The smelliest part is over. Now, it's time to dry them out. Drying. A lesson in patience. After the intense week of fermentation, the next step feels a lot calmer. Drying. The beans are still really moist, and we need to dry them out completely to stop any mold from growing and to get them ready for roasting. In big chocolate operations, they spread them on huge trays under the sun for up to 2 weeks. We don't have 2 weeks of guaranteed sun, so we're using our dehydrator on a low setting. You could also do this in an oven on its absolute lowest temperature. We spread the fermented beans in a single layer, making sure they had plenty of space. This is another one of those long waiting games. It can take anywhere from a few hours to a couple of days, depending on your method. The kids' main contribution at this stage was asking, "Are they done yet?" Every 20 minutes, we'd give them a stir every few hours to make sure they were drying evenly. You know they ready when the bean is brittle and the thin outer shell cracks icily between your fingers. They've shrunk a bit, and they look darker and more like what you might recognize as a cocoa bean. The strong funky smell has mellowed out into something more earthy and mild. It's a slow process, but with every step, these are starting to feel a little bit more like the building blocks of chocolate. Next up, the part that finally makes the house smell amazing. Roasting, the first smell of chocolate. This is the moment we've all been waiting for. Roasting is where the real magic happens. This step develops that deep, rich, nutty aroma that everyone instantly recognizes as chocolate. It also kills off any leftover bacteria and makes the outer shells brittle and easy to peel off. We spread our dried beans on a baking sheet in a single layer, just like with drying. We're roasting them in the oven at a moderate temperature, somewhere between 250 and 300 degrees Fahrenheit. The exact time varies, but it's usually around 20 to 30 minutes. We had to watch them like a hawk, stirring them every few minutes to make sure they roasted evenly and didn't burn. Within minutes, the entire kitchen started to smell incredible. Not like stinky fermentation, but like the most amazing pan of brownies was baking in the oven. The kids came running. Finally, something that smelled like the chocolate they were promised. This was a major turning point for their enthusiasm. After we pulled them out of the oven, the beans were a gorgeous deep brown, and the shells were papery and crisp. When you crack one open, the inside is darker and smells absolutely divine. This is the first time our strange little beans actually smell like real chocolate, and everyone is officially excited again. Now for what might be the most tedious job of all: getting those shells off. Winnowing. The messy, tedious team effort. So, we have our beautifully roasted beans. Now, we have to get the shells off. This process is called winnowing, and it's all about separating the outer husk from the precious inside part, which is called the cacao nib. The husk is brittle and bitter, so you really want to get rid of all of it. There are fancy machines for this, but we're a decidedly low-tech operation. Step 1 is cracking. We put the beans in a plastic bag and gently crushed them with a rolling pin, just enough to break the shells without pulverizing the nibs inside. This was another job the kids were happy to help with. Then came the actual winnowing. The idea is simple. The shells are super light, and the nibs are heavier. So, you use air to blow the shells away. We took our cracked beans outside with 2 big bowls and a hairdryer. This was, without a doubt, the messiest part of the entire project. We de-pour the banana shell mixture from one bowl to another while aiming the hairdryer at the stream. The light husks would fly everywhere, creating a cloud of cocoa confetti all over the yard, while the heavier nibs, hopefully, fell back into the bowl. It took a few tries to get the technique right, and we definitely lost some nibs along the way, but it was hilarious. The kids were covered in shell fragments, and so were we. It's not the most efficient method, but it was a blast. After a whole lot of blowing and shaking, we were left with a bowl of pure cacao nibs. These are the very heart of our chocolate bar. Grinding. The magical transformation. This is the step where it all comes together. We're going to take our hard-won cacao nibs and grind them into liquid chocolate. The nibs are packed with fat cocoa butter and, as you grind them, that fat gets released, turning the solid nibs into a thick, smooth paste called chocolate liquor, which, disappointingly for some, contains 0 alcohol. For this, we're using a small, powerful grinder. We added the nibs and just let it run. At first, it just looks like a coarse powder. But you have to be patient. After a few minutes of grinding and giving the machine some breaks so it doesn't overheat, see the magic happen. The powder starts to look damp, then clumpy, and then, all of a sudden, it transforms into a flowing, liquid chocolate. The kids were glued to the machine, watching it happen. Once we had a smooth liquor, it was time to decide what kind of chocolate we wanted. We decided on a sweet, dark chocolate. To our chocolate liquor, we added some powdered sugar, which we made by blitzing regular sugar in the grinder first, and a little extra cocoa butter to make it extra smooth and creamy. We ground everything together one last time until it was as smooth as our little machine could possibly get it. What we have now is real, untempered chocolate. It looks and smells incredible. Just one final, very scientific step to go. Tempering and molding. The final, fussy step. We are so close. We have liquid chocolate, but if we just let it cool down now, it would be soft, crumbly, and probably have a dull, streaky look. To get that professional, glossy shine, and a satisfying snap, we have to temper it. Tempering is a super precise process of heating and cooling chocolate to very specific temperatures. This encourages the cocoa butter crystals to line up in a stable, uniform way. There are a few ways to do this, but we're trying a method called seeding. We gently melted most of our chocolate over a double boiler until it hit about 115 degrees Fahrenheit. Then, we took it off the heat and added in a few chunks of a good quality, already tempered, dark chocolate bar from the store. These seeds provide the right crystal structure for our chocolate to copy. We stirred constantly, adding more seeds, until the temperature dropped all the way down to about 82 degrees Fahrenheit. This took a long time and a lot of stirring. Then, we gently heated it back up to exactly 90 degrees. This melts away any unstable crystals, leaving only the good, stable ones. It's a fussy, nerve-wracking process. 1 degree too high, and you have to start all over again. But we did it. Our chocolate was officially in temper. We quickly poured the smooth, liquid chocolate into our bar molds, gave them a few taps to get rid of air bubbles, and popped them in the fridge to set. The final wait begins. Conclusion: after more than a week of fermenting, drying, roasting, cracking, winnowing, grinding, and tempering, the moment of truth has finally arrived. Our chocolate bars are set. They slid out of the molds looking shiny and beautiful. We honestly can't believe we made these. But the real question is, how do they taste? We all gathered around for the first snap. It was perfect. A clean, sharp break, the sign of a well-tempered bar. And the taste. It's incredible. It's rich, it's intense, and you can taste the journey. It's not exactly like a store-bought bar. It has its own unique character. It's a little fruity, a little earthy, and so deeply chocolatey. The kids, who were pretty skeptical through all the smelly and boring parts, are completely won over. They're so proud that they made this. So, was it worth it? Absolutely. It was a long, messy, and at times frustrating process, but it was an incredible family adventure. We learned so much about where chocolate comes from and the amazing transformation it undergoes. It's given us a whole new appreciation for every single chocolate bar we eat. If you enjoyed our messy kitchen experiment, please subscribe for more family adventures. And let us know in the comments, what crazy from scratch project should we try next? Thanks for joining us on our bean to bar journey.